text editing via the command line. I mean, I've already teased the VS Code thing where you are using graphical user interface, but also in my opinion, it's quite comfortable and powerful to use the command line for text editing. You could always have some command line editing tool installed on remote servers, so you can always edit some files even without setting up some remote editing thing. So it's quite fast starting up the tool itself to edit a file. So there's not much of very complicated IDE or something that has to start, even if you maybe Vim can configure to be have more features, more plugins and so on, but in its normal state, it's quite fast on the startup. And as I said, it's installed, pre-installed on the cluster, and it's easier also than copying back and forth files from the cluster to your local notebook and back just to edit one line in a config file. So remote editing is quite comfortable. So maybe you're already using Nano, which maybe is enough for your use case for occasional editing of some files. And it's quite easy to use. And then there are also more powerful editors like Vim or Emacs, where you have a somewhat steeper learning curve, but then are able to have a little more features in your text editing. All right. So what we're gonna do is in this part, I'm gonna show you Vim. It's just a selection. Maybe you know there's some people that like Emacs more. In the end, it's similar. You have some kind of terminal editor and you edit a file, and then the difference is then in how you control it. Let's. So in the slides, you will see all of the things I'm going to talk about as a reference, but I'm going to go on the cluster. And hopefully you were able to also join us with the credentials that we sent you. So maybe I can also again, maybe if you were in one of our previous courses, then you know if you have a local terminal open on your notebook, then you will have your local username at the host name, and then the folder that you are, where your shell is currently inside, and then you can use SSH to connect to some other place. So in this case, we are using the training host of the PC2. So this is only for our training courses to so you don't have to set up VPN also only to participate in our courses. And so we have SSH, your username that you got from the email, your credentials at the host name, in this case training.pc2.upb.de, and it may ask for a password, and then you can enter your password that you got via email. Also, if it asks, if you're first time connecting, then it asks if you're sure, then you just type yes, and it should work out. So here is some message, and I'm gonna press Control L in the terminal. It should work in many terminals, and then you clear it. You can still scroll up, but then you have the prompt at the top, and here we have again our username at the host name. In this case, this is the user training account that I'm using for this training course, and then the training machine and colon, and then the tilde. Tilde means it's the home folder of this user account. And we can look at the files. We've already prepared some files for you here. And in this case, now I'm gonna open up Vim, and therefore I'm simply starting Vim. And I've also included a little pre-configuration for Vim with some configurations that I'm using, so it maybe looks a little bit different than in unconfigured Vim. And the first thing that you might see is that if you try to type, then it will do strange stuff. And this is because in Vim you have different modes of control. So the normal mode, it's called normal mode, is where you can navigate in your text file with your arrow keys and some keys on your keyboard. But then all or many of the keys on your keyboard are you can use to navigate or to edit your file. And if you want to enter some new text, then you have to change the mode into, for example, the insert mode. And you do this by pressing small I. So you see in the status bar here, it says insert. And then you can type as usual. So, hello, this is my first Vim file. And to get back to the normal mode, you can press escape, and then you see that it doesn't show insert anymore, so you're back in the normal mode. So you see you can use your arrow keys, for example, to navigate both in insert and normal mode, but you can only type if you are in the insert mode. Now, why are there these different modes? It's basically an idea of how to control your editor. You could also do everything with hotkeys, like control some key combination, but this is then a different idea or different philosophy of controlling your program. And in this case, we just have these different modes, and for this. And there, if you are in the normal mode, there is, for example, as an alternative to the arrow keys, you can use the H, J, K, L keys to move around in the file. Now there is another basic thing about the control. You can enter commands, and this you do by in the normal mode enter the colon on your keyboard, and then you see that your cursor switches to down on the status bar, and then you can do certain commands. And one command is simply the Q command, and this will enter the file, exit Vim, and I can do this, and it will complain because I edited my new file, but I did not save it, so it isn't sure what to do about it. Should it just drop everything that I've written, or should it? It doesn't know. So I can either save it, or I can yeah, just drop the content. In this case, I'm gonna use Q and the exclamation mark, and this will tell Vim to exit and not save the changes that I did to the file. So I'm back at the prompt now, and you see everything that was happening is gone, and I see again my last command because in Vim took over the complete terminal window to edit a file. Now let's edit an existing file. Here, for example, food.python, and you can simply use Vim and then the file name to open it. You can use here absolute or relative file path as usual when you're using commands at the terminal. to open a file, and then Vim opens in this existing file, and you see the content. And again, I'm in the normal mode, and if I want to exit, I can again press colon and then Q. And in this case, I did not change anything, therefore Vim also does not complain about unsaved changes. There are different arguments to Vim that you can use. One, for example, is minus capital R. Then it will open it in read-only mode. You will see here read-only, and then it will also complain if you want to overwrite the file. This may be useful in some cases. Another neat trick if you are using Vim is, and sometimes if you know a certain line that you want to edit in a file, for example, if I'm grabbing something, so grep searches inside files, and with -n, I can also let me give out the file number, the line number, sorry. And then if I want to edit it, I can simply add a plus and the line number, and then Vim will start here with already at the line number that I'm interested in. Now these are the complete basics. So we have these different modes. The normal mode where I can navigate and edit something, have some commands with the colon and then some commands, and the insert mode to enter something. And here, as expected, I can enter some text or remove them. So there is a question in the chat, can we undo the changes? Yes, Vim has a certain idea of what is a unit of change. So for example, I change something, and now I can press U in the normal mode, and then it changed it. And if I want to redo it, then so here I'm back at the beginning. I already had all this change. Yeah, I pressed U multiple times, little U, and if I want to redo it, I can. Now this is now a hotkey. I don't. Some features are behind hotkeys. This is Control R, and now I can redo this. So U with undoing, and R with redoing. Control R. But sometimes you see that you did some changes and press U, and then Vim will undo too much. This is just because Vim has a certain sense of what is an action and or what is a complete action that can be undone, and then it will undo the complete action if you only wanted to undo a certain thing. Now let's look at a little bit of navigation in Vim. So you can always use the arrow keys to navigate. You can also use the HJKL. So some people like this more. So this is like the home row on your keyboard, where your if you ever had a typing course, then you know that you have a certain position of your hands, and then you always start with the home row at HJKL with your right hand, and some people like this more than the arrow keys because then they don't have to switch back and forth. Now, very useful thing is to go to the top and the bottom of the file. So if you press capital G, then you get to the bottom of the file, and if you press twice a small g, then you go to the top. So capital G to the bottom, small, two small g's, you go to the top. And there's also something to go inside of a line. So if you enter the dollar sign, if you enter the dollar sign, then you go to the end of the line, and if you press a 0, then you go to the front of the line. So depending on your keyboard layout, maybe this is more or less comfortable. Yes, you can also use W and B to navigate in between words. So with small w, you can jump to the next word, and with small b, you can go back words. And the word is, as you see, it's a sequence of letters, and they can be interrupted by white space or some other character. Like here you see that for Vim it seems that this open curly braces is one word. This is just by definition. So this might be useful if you're writing some normal text. For example, if you're writing a LaTeX file and you have normal text there, then you can jump in between words. You can also jump to specific lines. You can do this with colon and then just enter the line number, for example, 9, and then the cursor jumps to line 9, or 18, and then it jumps to 18. As an alternative, you can also just enter without the colon the line number, for example, 5, and then GG, and then it will also jump there. For editing some codes, there's also some useful jumping between starting and ending brackets with the percent character. So you can jump there back and forth. We've already seen how to enter something by getting inside the insert mode with I. And then we can enter some text, and we can get back with escape. If we want to also add, okay, there's another question. Can we organize a text file in terms of the indentations? Yes. I'm not sure what you mean by organize, but you can basically use the smaller and greater signs to indent lines or blocks of lines. But this is a little bit more advanced feature. And then there's also the question of did Vim correctly identified how many what kind of indentations you want. So in my sample configuration, I just configured all tabs are always spaces, and it's 4 spaces. This is my like if you copy a text and it doesn't paste correctly, indentations are not right. Yes, so Vim tries to be smart, and if you insert some text, it tries to do some auto indentation and so on, but I deactivated it in my example config because for me personally it's confusing. So but you can basically configure it. Okay. Exactly. So if you want to add a new line and immediately start to write, you can press O. So that's the button next to I. and then it created a new line, and you can directly start to write new code here. No. So this is quite useful. So if you know, okay, I want to add here a new line, you don't need to go to the end, press I, press return, and so on. You just press O, and then there's already a new line, and you can start to type. So in insert mode, you inserting text. There's another mode, it's the replace mode. You can enter it with capital R from the normal mode, and then you see here it says replace at the bottom, and then it will replace all the text. Sometimes maybe, so it's, I think text editing, it's like a toolbox, and it depends on your own style or preferences, what kind of things you like to use. Some things are improving your productivity. Some things you can get used to. Sometimes you need a feature, but you only need it once a week, and then maybe you can write it down somewhere, and then you can look it up if you need it. And some things you use regularly, and then you can remember it very easily. Now let's copy some lines, and for this there's the yank feature, and in the normal mode you can simply press 2 times the small y, and then it will copy the line in the internal buffer, and then if you press P, it will paste the line. So because it's inside of the buffer, we can paste it multiple times. So I'm pressing basically 2 times Y and then P. So copy the line and then paste it. And this will then paste the complete line. You can also copy multiple lines, for example, with Y, 5Y. And then it also says 5 lines yanked. And now if I paste it, you see it pasted 5 lines. You can also delete lines. It's similar as the Y command is just a D. So 2 times D will delete the line. And what it also will do is it will overwrite this internal buffer. So if I now go to somewhere else and press P, then it will paste the deleted line. And I can analogously delete multiple lines, for example, D5D, and then paste it somewhere else. Another thing that you can do is write in the normal mode with X, you can delete single characters. So if you just press X, it will just delete the next character under the cursor. You can also delete multiple characters just with a number and pressing X, and then it's gone. And again, with U, you can redo it, or with Control R, you can redo this. So undo and redo. Another very useful thing is searching inside of a file. And for this, in the normal mode, you simply enter the slash, and then you will see that your cursor is at the bottom again. And now we can enter some text, for example, user, and press return. And we see that now the cursor jumped here at the first occurrence. And when with small n and capital N, you can jump through the occurrences. So user maybe a bad example, but food may be a good example. And we see there are multiple times food um, in the file. And now I can press small n to jump through the occurrences. And it will start a cycle through the occurrences and jump from the bottom to the top when it's through the file. And I can press capital N to jump in the opposite direction. And in my little example configuration, I also edited some small feature that it will highlight the occurrences, and to remove this highlight, if you don't need it anymore, you can simply press return and it will be gone. So I find this quite useful. And I also configured a little smarter um, uh, way for Vim to search for capital and small characters. So, for example, if I'm searching um, for food, it will find all occurrences independent of the case. And if I'm searching for capital F UUD, then all the occurrences with a small f are not found. So by default, you can always write a small case and it will find everything. But if you want to specifically find something with a capital case, then you can use the capital case. So you have to, this is something that maybe you need to remember. Sometimes you're wondering why isn't it finding the small case if I'm entering the capital case letters, and then it's because of this feature basically. Another very powerful thing is to substitute, so search and replace. And for this, you can use the substitute feature. For example, I'm entering with dot colon the command prompt at the bottom, and now I can enter this expression. So here it means substitute, and you have these three slashes, and in between the first two slashes, it is the term that I want to search for and want to replace, for example, food. And in the second place here, I'm entering what I wanted to replace with. And then it will replace the first occurrence of what I've searched for. So in this case, this movie here was a food, and I replaced it. If I want to replace everything, all occurrences in the line, I can add this little g, and then both occurrences are replaced. And I can maybe a little hint. If you just press colon and then up and down, you see the previous entered commands. This is also quite useful. If you want to do it in the complete file, you can use the % in before of the S. This means apply this action to all of the lines. And then we will see all of the, most of the food occurrences were replaced. Or always the first food occurrence in every line. And if you want to replace all occurrences, we can also add G, and then in all lines, all occurrences are replaced. So this is quite powerful to do all kind of text transformations in the text file. And we can even add another parameter. If I add a C, then Vim will jump through all of the occurrences and will ask if you want to replace it or not. And then you can basically decide which ones you want to replace by then pressing Y and N. And there are also some other options. So what I'm talking about is just a very small subset to start with Vim and have some nice text editing. But there are a lot more features um, in Vim. Now, what if you want to save the file under a new name? Then we can enter a new command and use W and then the new file name. And as we see here now, it was saved as the new file, but it's still in the state of I'm editing this old file. So you could write it down in a different in the current state, and then continue to work on your original file. And to actually overwrite the file and exit it as explained, WQ, and then it will overwrite the food file. Another thing is the E command, and with this you can just start edit another file. So this is the other version of the file. Or you can also use capital E, and then it will open up a little list of the files of the folder, of the files in the folder where your original file was opened in. So, for example, if I'm opening this, hopefully this is a good file. Oh, this is not a non-existing file. So this is a binary file, but it doesn't matter. So if I'm now using capital E, then you see it is not the working directory where I started, where I opened the file, but this is the directory where the file was stored that I opened. So this is the molecular data analysis folder because I used the capital E. Now I've already explained that I've actually have a little configuration file here. So there are some files that are stored in the .vim or .config vim folder, but there's also just a .vim rc file inside of your home folder. And we can take a look at all the things that I've configured here. So first I've deactivated the mouse. So this is also personal preference if you want to use the mouse feature of Vim or not. And then I set up here okay, this is 2 times the same configuration, but this basically defines that the idea of tabs is that they are expanded to spaces and that they are always a size of 4. And here are the configurations of the search, that it should be highlighted, and that should ignore the case if you're using small letters and so on. Here is this little configuration that if you type enter, then it will deactivate the highlighting of the search patterns and the found occurrences in the search. It will always activate the status line, so and set these line numbers on the side of the Vim window. And there's also a feature in Vim that you can add some special magic lines on top of files to tell Vim what are some additional configurations only for this file, but this is a known security issue, so I disabled this here and and many of these configurations you can enable or disable also at runtime. So simply with a colon and then the line. These are basically the same lines as in the configuration file. For example, if I'm setting here no number, then the numbers are deactivated. And if I want to activate them again, I can do this. So I could also define like a key or key configuration hotkey for this, but you can also type the configuration manually if you know it. So I use this often to then just copy some text out of the terminal and then in the insert mode paste it again. For example, if I have multiple terminal windows open and then they obviously don't share the same buffer, so I can't use the Vim feature to yank the lines and then paste it in the different terminal window because these are two instances of Vim. So I can then just highlight this or select this here in the terminal window and then use Command C and Command V on macOS to insert it in a different terminal window. So as explained, you find all of these things in the slides. So these are basically all the things that I've just explained. And there's also this online help in Vim, so it's very extensive for all kinds of commands and so on. It will actually open, I can actually show this. And they're, depending on the context, they are different S commands. And as you see here, it opened the sub window, and so there's a whole window management thing where you can open multiple files and so on, but these are more advanced features in Vim. If you ever happen to open the help, you can just use :Q to close the help window here, and then you're back at your normal window. And another recommendation is there is this Vim tutor command. This is a very nice pre-installed help that basically opens Vim in a special file that helps you with learning Vim. And there will be some little exercises here. And it will guide you through all of these things. For example, here it says, correct this the typos here and use the X key, and then you can go here through the file and fix it, and then it guides you through the most basic features, and you can again simply exit it as normal in Vim. So this is an online pre-installed learning guide for Vim, and there's also there are the Vim cheat sheets that help you to remember all of these commands. For example, this Vim cheat sheet with a selection of useful commands. Okay, do you have some questions about this little section? Yes.
E and Vim.
It was before like a different version, and then Vim was like an extended version of it. But nowadays, just Vim is installed, and VI will then open either Vim or a special version of Vim that is more like the old version, but usually you just use Vim, and then that's fine. There's actually also another re-implementation, you could say, of Vim Neo that has more features with more plugins and so on. But I would suggest if you want to use it, you can just start with a vanilla Vim, and then if you want to have more advanced features and get more into it, then you can look at the ways to use plugins and how this may or may not help you with your work.
Yeah, maybe I comment because you are using Nano. My experience is the most advantage uh, for using Vim is you can type those keyboard moving around and doing, for example, deleting characters by simply type X very quickly. So for the other editors, you may need to use mouse, to select the text and so on. And in some cases, mouse may go to other places. So if you really need to edit your input file for your calculation extensively, Vim is definitely much better than those GUI. Yeah, this is my personal feeling.